Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of this series of tubes and wires that we call the internets, hopefully not panicking again, Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing?
Where's the pressure cooker? What am I gonna do? How do I cook noodles? What's a spatula for? I need a spatula. I gotta run a spatula city. Who's on the other line? Who is this? How did you get in my computer? Get the heck out of there! Oh, I got a hangnail. Oh, on me.
Have you been drinking all day again?
No, Chris is gone.
Oh, doing what?
She went out to visit Dana out in Reno.
Oh.
I'm so alone!
So wait a minute. You have the place to yourself.
It's not that big a deal.
You can do whatever you want.
No, I can't. She'll know. She'll know.
Not if you clean it up afterward.
Oh, hadn't thought of that.
Or just put the comics in the basement and say, no, they've always been there.
They've always been there.
I had those 25 omnibuses in that stack years ago.
Well, I did have one of those. I did get my Kevin Smith hardcover, The Secret Stash, in my last box days.
Ah, there you go. So
no omnibuses, though. No omnibuses.
Did you get your previews?
I done did.
Wow. And was it all beat to hell like the Marvel books have been?
No, actually, most of my stuff was pretty good.
It's a Tuesday when we're recording this, and once again, all the comic shops are reporting their Marvel books are all beat to shit.
Yeah. Even talking with Jay briefly at Granite City, yeah, he just kind of shook his head like, oh, good grief. So... Not very good. And it baffles me too, because you would think somebody somewhere in the Marvel organization would have explained to Penguin, okay, I know this doesn't make sense, but they want their books in good shape, not sellable shape, in good shape, so that way they can, hopefully it goes up in value. It's one of those things. So it's not a good day and a good time to be a comic retailer.
And I would like to point back to the PDF that they sent out to all comic shops back when this was announced in March of 2021. Question number 29. Will comic books be handled differently than graphic novels and other book product? Answer, yes. Because of the delicate and collectible nature of comics, we are using our warehouse in Hampstead, Maryland to process comic book orders. In order to minimize damages, comics will not ship with other graphic novels and book product. Number 30. What if I receive product that is damaged or an incorrect quantity? Answer, claims for damaged or defective product must be submitted within 10 calendar days of receipt of product. Claims can be processed on the selfserve.biz site or can be placed via customer service. So they knew in Brian Hibbs's retailer group, a staggering 45% of respondents reported damages greater than normal. 2/3 of those reported up to 30% of their comics being unsaleable, and 20% say over a third of their shipment as destroyed.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Now, I will say this. When Marvel went to Heroes World, they may have screwed everything up, but at least when the comics did show up in the store, they were okay.
So we shouldn't even bother talking about things we're looking forward to in previews because we may not be getting them. Well, at least Marvel.
Well, at least Marvel.
Yeah.
But we got a new previews. This is for the month of, let's see, this is comics coming out in December. Now, one of the things about this is usually they front load a lot of stuff to come out in November for December sales. But because a lot of the trade paperbacks and hardcovers and omnibuses and big books come from China, you were ordering those back in June and July, if not sooner, because some of the Marvel omnibuses are coming out in May of next year. So you're ordering that far in advance. And it's funny because what did the Uncanny Omar, who has a video podcast called Near Mint, he's the one that Marvel goes to announce the previews. Announce the omnibuses.
Omnibus.
And he's announcing stuff that'll be coming out in late summer of 2022. And there are people who are like, wow, why are they? That's almost a year from now. And it's like, well, yeah, you're going to be ordering it in a month or two. That's how it is for the big books. You got to order them long in advance. And over at DC, because of all the shipping things, a lot of their big books are being delayed by a month or more. Good times, good times. But we got previews.
We do.
Let's start with Image. Joe.
All right.
What jumps out at you at Image?
Let's see. Now, I will say this is a very disappointing month. I was going through it and I was like, am I doing something wrong? Because there's hardly anything I'm ordering. So this may not be one where you finish Cory and then I get to
go on for hours at end.
Yeah. But let's go to page 34 in your previews, because as you know, you need your previews with this because this is as close to an interactive podcast as we get. And this is the first thing that jumped out at me as Lady Mechanica is now at Image. So not only are you able to get all the trade paperbacks with new printings, in my case, I'm missing volume 2, so I get to order that. But here's your chance to jump on board with a new series. Plus, you get some really cool full-page previews of some of the art. I don't know if they show all the covers here because their Image seems to be all on board of this. How would you say? Variant covers. The Image, or I should say, cover C looks the most interesting. I don't know if that's extra money for that particular one, but I've enjoyed this in graphic novels. And if you're so inclined and you've been picking it up as a self-publish, well, now's your chance to jump on board the Image thing. And this one's coming out, what'd they say, December 8th, starting out with a mini series, but I think this is a series premiere. So I think what they'll do is they'll just have the issues come out and then just work mini-series and continue forward. So that's the first one that I will point out.
I would also like to point out that for the last 155 years, there has been a Lady Mechanica book in the Free Comic Book Day.
You keep talking. I'm going to talk to my wife. She just made it to Reno, so hang on a second.
Okay.
I'm going to mute. Sorry. You tell us what you...
Okay, so I find it really cool that finally Lady Mechanica is coming out. It's been in the Free Comic Book Day for years, and it comes out through Aspen, which is a company that was mostly created for Michael Turner's creator-owned stuff. So with Image, it may actually show up. On page 52, we get a partial reprint book. This is the Times Squared Omnibus hardcover. Howard Chaykin had a series of They were called graphic novels at the time, but really they were more graphic albums. Through First Comics, it was a standalone science fiction series, but he kind of spun it out of American Flag because at the time American Flag sold really well. He did 2 volumes and there was a third, but First Comics went under before it came out. So now we get the Time Squared Omnibus. And the way they talk about it is graphically, experimentally, narrative, daring, visually explosive. Time Squared was a work ahead of its time, now on the 35th anniversary. With the arrival of its long-awaited conclusion, it still is. In addition to the remastered American Flag special, the 2 graphic novels, there is the 3rd graphic novel, 48-page volume, Hallowed Ground, plus many never-before-seen extras. I do not know if Hallowed Ground is actually a new work or something that was done when First went under back in the 80s or early 90s and was just shelved because there was nobody to publish it. So I'm really excited about it.
What are you talking about? I was
Time Squared by Howard Chaykin.
Oh yeah, I was wondering about that because I was going to mention that, but I figured you'd be on it like Oprah on a canned ham. So, and I got to tell you, I'm going to write that down because I with such little that I'm buying this month, this was one of those that I was thinking, if I can afford it, well, I'm pretty sure I can afford it, so I'm going to go for it. I'm actually done with Image. The only thing I point out is if you're into the Spawn universe, you want to jump on to page 38 and jump on the Scorched, because this is a first all-new issue, and it's apparently the Spawn superhero team book. A threat so big that no single Spawn can stop it. The formation of this supergroup is the only thing standing in its way. Members will include Spawn, Redeemer, Gunslinger, Medieval Spawn, and She-Spawn. So, and of course, he gives you a couple pages of art so you can decide if you like it. I'm not picking this up, but it's one of those things. If you are buying the whole Spawn universe, you definitely want to jump on board this because this is what they're leaning towards. Anything else image-wise for you?
Yeah, on page 56 there is Spawn Compendium Volume 2. Spawn is actually after issue 300.
Wonderful Spawn. I'm sorry.
Is experiencing kind of a sales renaissance, and McFarlane is taking the old stuff, and rather than doing those really thin Spawn archive trade paperbacks that I think at one point they were only reprinting 4 issues at a time, he's gone the route of the compendiums, just like Walking Dead, where it's 50 issues per book. And this is issues 51 through 100, which is, by this time he had walked away from the art. Greg Capullo was drawing it. And Greg Capullo, now best known for his time on Batman with Scott Snyder. Really good art, except his art is different now because when he was on Spawn, he basically was, how can I draw like Todd McFarlane? And then I did want to point out, Joe mentioned last time, what's the furthest place from here? The second issue also has a 7-inch record. So if you're buying that, I would say buy the one with the record because you'll be able to flip that and make a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
Dark Horse.
Let's see. Dark Horse. I got nothing new. I mean, I'm ordering stuff. I've got nothing new that I want to point out from Dark Horse. So I will sit back and listen to you.
On page 100, Gru meets Tarzan, the trade paperback. I buy Gru like I buy most comics now as trade paperbacks. Written by Mark Evanier, drawn by Sergio Aragones and Thomas Yates. Tom Luth, this is his last Gru story he will be coloring. He says he's getting too old to color Sergio's stuff anymore. And if you've read any of the other Gru crossovers like Gru meets Tarzan, what it is, Sergio draws the Gru parts. Someone else draws the Tarzan parts, often on the same page. Have not read the story yet, but I know that I will like it because, come on, man, it's a Gru.
And this is one of those, like, if you're at all interested, buy it now. Because, like I've said before, anytime you're dealing with a licensed book, the Gru versus Conan is going for silly money on the eBays because Dark Horse doesn't have the rights for Conan. I don't think Marvel is going to reprint the crossover ever. They might, but it doesn't seem like it's big on their radar. So anybody who wants a piece of the Conan Gru, fork up the money. Well, here's your chance to jump on board. I picked it up as the comic books. As a matter of fact, issue 4 is upstairs, and I loved it. It was a blast. Anything Gru is a blast.
On page 97, they reprint the next EC archives is Terror Illustrated, and I've told this story over and over. But if you haven't heard, after the Comics Code went into effect, distributors decided they would not carry EC Comics anymore. Mad had already turned into a magazine and was doing well, so Gaines thought, well, I will do the same thing with my other comics. The problem is, rather than Mad, which kind of continued Harvey Kurtzman's idea of kind of comics with some articles, these were short stories that would have a paragraph under a drawing. And the art was okay, the stories were mediocre, and the format did not work. So if you are an EC collector, you'll want to get this. Maybe. Why do I say maybe? Because, Joe, I think I point this out more often than even the publisher does. Let's pop over to, I'm going to get the page here. Pop over to page 287.
All right. Dun, 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 dun. Whoops.
Do you see up at the top where it says EC Pictofiction Library Complete Set, $150? Mm-hmm. This is Shock Illustrated, Terror Illustrated, Crime Illustrated, and Confessions Illustrated. This is all of the Pictofiction book in a beautiful slipcase box set that is cheaper than the archives. Because the archives are $50 each, and this is $150 for 4 of them. And I love how people say, oh, it's out of, if you look on eBay every once in a while, people will be selling this out of print, $300, $400. No, it's still in print. You can still get it from your local comic shop. And that is all I had from Dark Horse.
All right.
Want to go to DC?
We can now. I did not get the DC book. I don't know if it's being published anymore. I haven't seen one in 2 months.
I hold it in my very hands.
Okay. I don't know why I didn't get it.
I didn't get last, so it's really odd, especially that DCB Service is DC's distributor.
Yeah. There are only 3 things at DC I am interested in. One of them, probably not. The other one I've already got, and then the final one is a miniseries. Since I'm going alphabetically, the first 2 are right on top. The Absolute Dark Knight Metal hardcover and the Absolute Doomsday Clock hardcover. Now, the Dark Knights, I don't know if I want to read it. I don't know if I want to spend $100 doing it, because I'm not sure I'm going to like it. I did try to read it as the comics, and I was on comic groups saying, could somebody explain this to me? And nobody could. So it's interesting. The Absolute Doomsday right next to it is of course, Jeff Johns, Gary Frank, where, well, at the time we didn't know it was Dr. Manhattan, although I think we figured it out. He basically is responsible for mucking around on all the DC reboots and crises and whatever.
Not anymore.
I know. But in my mind, the rest of the DC universe is mopied. because Absolute Doomsday Clock. Anyways, I've got it. I've got the comics. I can go buy the hardcover. So again, I don't know. What I probably will do is, okay, that was the very, very beginning of the alphabet. Now let's go to the very, very end of the alphabet. World of Krypton, a 6-issue miniseries. Creative team, Robert Venditti, Michael Avon Oming, tons of other books. 2 miniseries, a modern telling of one of the most storied periods in comics. Krypton is a utopia admired across the universe for its achievements in science and culture, but its shining towers and regal people conceal a planet rotting at its core. And if you don't know what happens from here on out, you obviously aren't really a comic fan. And I thank you for listening to this here podcast, but I'm pretty sure there's some good commercials on network television you probably enjoy. So, but other than the normal things I buy, including Justice League's got an annual, that's pretty much it. Cory, what are you getting? What did I might have looked over?
1-star Squadron.
No, I didn't look over that.
Superman level service at bizarro prices. I was not interested in this at all when I first heard about it till I saw the creative team. Mark Russell, who does a number of books over at Ahoy, including Second Coming, and did some stuff at DC that I could not believe how good it was, including the Flintstones comic, which blew me away by how good it was. Drawn by Steve Lieber, who's a great artist. This is a number of heroes who don't have books at the current time. Red Tornado, Power Girl. Let's see who else is listed here. I can't remember the character's name, but Joe, do you remember when Firestorm had a girlfriend who had similar powers?
Oh, Firehawk, wasn't it?
I think so, something like that. But I'm basically picking it up because it's Mark Russell writing it. And there's a part of me that's like, come on, man, Power Girl and Red Tornado in a goofy humor book. But then I have to think back to the 1987 Justice League by Keith Giffen and J.M.D. Matthias, and how it was amazingly funny. He used Batman and made Batman funny. Okay, so it can be done without making the characters seem cheap and tawdry. So I want to give this a try. It's a 6-issue miniseries. Looking to see if the art looks really good. Steve Lieber just recently drew Jimmy Olsen 12-issue series, so his stuff is really beautiful when he's given a good inker, and it looks like he's doing it all himself. Book-wise, I am getting the Milestone Compendium 1, which for some reason I thought we had already talked about, but this is reprinting the Milestone comics from the 90s. It is, let's see here, Blood Syndicate 1 through 12, Hardware 1 through 12, Icon 1 through 10, Static 1 through 8, Zombie 0 through 11, and Shadow Cabinet number 0. This was a multicultural superhero book. Basically, it was a number of creators like Dwayne McDuffie, Ivan Velez Jr., Robert Washington, John Rosen, Dennis Cowan, John Paul Leon, M.D. Bright, got together to do characters that weren't, your standard big old white guys. And it was very well done. Static went on to have a cartoon series. They have recently kind of rebooted the Milestone universe, but this is going to be a compendium. So it's all of those issues in a trade paperback for $60. And then the only other book I am picking up is Legion of Superheroes Before the Darkness, Volume 2, which is another collection of the Legion of Superheroes stories before the Paul Levitz, Keith Giffen run. I love the Legion of Superheroes, and Paul Levitz's Legion of Superheroes was just fantastic. He really had a grasp for the characters. He was able to take this concept, which is 30 different superheroes in a science fiction world 1,000 years from now, and made it relatable and made it work. And I still remember reading interviews with him at the time where he said he had this huge bulletin board and all of the characters had their own index card so he could keep track of where they were. Because there were so many characters, if he didn't do that, they would get lost. So that's it from DC. Next up, IDW.
IDW. I got nothing.
Yeah, how dare you? How dare you?
Dare you? I'm sorry. How dare they? Come on.
If someone wants to be nice to me and loves me,
I know what you're looking at.
on page 111, Dave Stevens' Rocketeer Artist Edition. These Artist Edition books are shot directly from the original art, the same size as the original art, on the same paper used for the original art. And Dave Stevens' stuff is just beautiful. Let's see here. As with all Artist Edition, the pages reproduced in this book have been meticulously scanned from the original art. Readers will be able to peruse the pages, see all the quirks and nuances that made the original art so unique, blue pencil notations, whiteout gradients in the ink, and so much more. Unless you were looking over Dave's shoulder as he painstakingly drew these pages, this is your best chance to see the art of the Rocketeer as close to the originals as possible. Now, let's say you want to see stuff like that, but you can't afford it. You know, $150. These books are beautiful, but man, $150. Flip over to page 117, Joe.
Yeah, that's the one I want.
John Buscema's Silver Surfer Artisan Edition. This is basically the same thing at regular comic size on regular comic paper. So every page in this volume was scanned from the original art, but it's smaller. This reprints Silver Surfer 5, 6, and 8. I wish I had 4. 4's the one with Silver Surfer versus Thor, which is from John Buscema actually told me at the 2001 comic convention in San Diego that was his favorite art job he ever did. Because I'd always heard that he knocked himself out on that one. So when I knew he was going to be there, I got my masterwork and had him sign it. And I asked him about that, and he said, yep, that was my favorite work I ever did at Marvel, and Stan hated it.
Huh. Hated it.
He said years later, Stan went back to him and said that, you know, he basically, Stan apologized a few years later, saying that, you know, when he saw it, he was thinking, you know, he was very much Surfer needed to look like Kirby, and this was Buscema doing more Brune Hogarth than the basic Marvel style. But by then it was too late, and Buscema had already gone back to kind of doing as much Kirby in his layouts as he could. And for me, that was it from IDW.
Yep, same here.
Well, since next in previews is Dynamite, let's do Marvel.
Well, Dynamite's easy. Do you have anything from Dynamite?
I don't believe so, but I want to double check.
Okay, because there's 2 things in Dynamite I just want to point
out.
Nope,
nothing for me.
For me, on page 138, they're starting up with another Evil Ernie series. Scott Lobdell's writing it. There's an interview with him on the following page. And then if you're having problems opening your bottles, on page 177, it's your chance to get a Smiley, the Psychotic Button bottle opener. And that's pretty much it, other than, everything else seems to be offered again. And no sense going over it again, because now we want to move on to Marvel.
And Joe, you got the Marvel previews, right?
I did. I would be most upset if I had not.
It's Devil's Reign, so they're going to be doing a sequel to the crossover between Top Cow and Marvel.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
No, it's they're just reusing the name.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
Although I would not yawn for Devil's Reign. Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil has been fantastic, and they have been working with the fact that Kingpin is the mayor of New York. This is going to be the end of that story.
You know, and that's one of those things that I have not been reading it, and much like what was the one that we just finished, King in Black?
Yeah,
I don't have anything in the game, so it sounds like a fun miniseries. I'm not going to buy it, but I will probably pick it up down the road as an omnibus or a trade, because it crosses over in a bunch of other books, and I'm just not willing. I don't know what the heck's going on, and as interested as I am in the Kingpin's reign, and the preview looks interesting, I'm just not. I don't know if I'm going to jump down a 6-issue miniseries like that. Or then again, I might, because like I said, it's a slow month. But one way or another, I will pick it up down the road. I just may not pick it up as a comic.
Marvel is also doing another one of those books that is basically a story that previews what's coming out for the next year, called Timeless.
That I'll pick up. That's on page 8. And since the Marvel doesn't like even numbered pages for some reason, go to page 9 and go back one.
I like these. And the fact that they're really kind of positioning Kang to be a big bad for the next couple of years makes me pretty happy, because I'm happy that they're going to use him in this way that they've used a lot of other characters where, okay, we've used him so many times in the past that he's kind of become a joke. Let's go back, strip away all the baggage, strip away all the silliness, and go back to what makes him interesting. They started that with the Kang miniseries, and now they're going to do it over the next year or so.
And I wonder if there might be setting him up as the big bad guy in the movie.
Very well could be. Also, there is a new issue of Demon Days, which is the Peach Momoko series. I'm actually buying these as regular issues because they come out almost every 6 months or so, and I can't wait. What it is, Peach Momoko draws X-Men or other Marvel characters. This time I believe it is Thor, as Japanese mythology. And I know nothing about Japanese mythology, so it's something where it's taking characters we know and really doing something unique and new with them. I also would like to point out, Joe, that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 issues of Spider-Man coming out in December.
Yeah, I wasn't sure I was going to pick up the 80 BEY, but on page 15, hey, you got the one of the most controversial couples in comic history are back together again. You're talking Aunt May and her ex-fiance, Dr. Octopus.
With
Even
this
if
ring
I wasn't
by
buying
the web,
I would buy this one on its own. But I'm on board for the whole Spider-Man Beyond. It crosses over into a couple books that I'm not buying, so I don't know if I'm going to. I probably will ignore those. But yeah, I'm on board with Spider-Man. It's probably one of the few I'm going to stick around with for some time, just because it was like one of the first was the first comic I started down this road of crazy collectability.
Now, did you read Spider-Man 75?
I just got it, so I haven't read it yet.
Ooh, it's good.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good. Let's see, what else jumped out at you, Joe?
Let's see, on page 26, is a Conan #1 Facsimile edition. I'm not really looking toward the King Conan miniseries, although Jason Aaron's writing it, so it's probably going to be good. But I like the idea of the Conan #1 Facsimile edition because they put everything in it. The ads, I don't know if they had anything like they did in the Star Wars Facsimile where they said, hey, gang, check out Conan because he's cool. But I'll find out because that's one of the few comics, while I have read it in reprints, I have never read an actual #1. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
I want to point out King Conan because there is some talk online that the regular Conan series was canceled. And if that's true, Marvel at least is smart enough to remember that, hey, we need to put out a Conan comic every month to keep the rights. And even if the regular Conan comic doesn't sell all that great, the omnibuses are making Marvel huge money. The Epic collections are making Marvel huge money. So I imagine that what they will probably do is move to a series of miniseries so they can put them out as trade paperbacks, much like what Dark Horse did. It does not surprise me that Conan does not sell the greatest in the world because, you know, the character's been around for a long, long time. And even though they're tying him in with Marvel continuity and stuff, I think the market for a Conan comic as shown by Dark Horse and now Marvel is pure nostalgia at this point. Jason Aaron's run on Conan was fantastic. I think the other writers and artists who've worked on Conan have been very good, but it's just there doesn't seem to be a lot of people would rather just read the old stuff. But oh man, that cover they show on page 27 is awesome. Let's see, were there any other new comics?
I will point out on page 56, the last Avenger story, Marvel Tales #1. This is a Marvel Tales again where they're reprinting the last Avenger story, which is by Peter David. And let's see, Olivetti did the art. A fantastic series, tough to find, out of print for a while. Not terribly pricey on eBay, but here's your chance to have it in one format. And if you've never read it, I would definitely recommend picking it up.
They're really doing some good stuff with the Marvel Tales lately, where this is trade paperback quality material. They're just putting out in a regular comic for $7.99.
So I do have a question though.
Yes.
Now, are you reading the Avengers?
Yes.
Are you going to jump on Avengers Forever?
It is part of the main story, so yes.
Yeah, I may be checking out. I haven't decided yet because much as I love Jason Aaron, I think I'm better off reading these as a trade because oftentimes I will read it and I'm like, I don't recall if I remember what happened last month. So I may just have to go the trade route on this, or an omnibus. He'll get an omnibus eventually.
Speaking of omnibuses,
I'm
going to point out one that I'm not buying.
Oh, let's see if it's the same one I'm not buying.
Savage She-Hulk. And shall I tell you why, Joe?
I want to hear your reason, and then I will tell you mine.
I have this as a Marvel Essential. I did not read it when it came out. I read it as a Marvel Essential. Oh my God, is this a boring book? This is just a snooze fest. I love David Anthony Kraft. I do. But this book was just dull. And it was very much that, well, people will get mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. That typical Jim Shooter, bland it down, sand all the individuality off the art, make the stories one-parters that are one-dimensional, and by the sixth or seventh issue, it just became a chore to read. And I figure, you know what? The essential's good enough. This doesn't deserve omnibus quality. It's going to get an omnibus because there's going to be a She-Hulk TV show, of course. But oh man, the book just puts me to sleep.
Yeah, I kind of the same reason. I mean, I bought it when it first came out, and because Stan Lee's writing it, and it wasn't that good. She really didn't become an interesting character, I think, until John Byrne started breaking the fourth wall.
Now, I liked her as a member of the Avengers when Roger Stern did it, and there are some characters that are just better as supporting characters. I like Byrne's run. I liked the Steve Gerber stuff that everybody seems to forget. But I didn't really fall in love with the character until Dan Slott took it over and made her the lawyer for Marvel superheroes. That's when I went, oh, okay, the character works for me now. And I think one of the problems they have is the character's personality now is lurching back and forth so much to where now she's the savage She-Hulk again, where she's like the angry child Hulk from the 60s and 70s in the Avengers. However, on the next page, Savage Sword of Conan, Original Marvel Years, Omnibus number 7. These are beautiful books. John Buscema, inked by Alfredo Alcala, Pablo Marcus. You've got some Val Mayerick stuff. We are moving into where Marvel kind of just didn't. There was an editor-in-chief who didn't care for this magazine and would tell people, I'm so sick of the fact that Marvel publishes magazines for bikers. Magazines for bikers and the people who buy tattoo magazines. So he didn't pay much attention to it. The stories aren't the greatest in the world, but the art is, you could tell John Buscema loved drawing this stuff. On page 83 is the Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates, the entire run that he did, Black Panther 1 through 18, 166 through 72, and then the second series he did, Black Panther 1 through 22. It's his entire run. I knew they were going to do this because Coates is a best-selling author, and the fact that Marvel bagged him to do both Black Panther and Captain America, big feather in their cap. And I remember reading the first issue and going, yeah, he's got a very long story in mind, and I will wait until it's done to read it. Lots of reprints too. If you've been thinking of paying stupid money for Avengers by Hickman, Volume 1, Omnibus, you don't have to. Annihilation, I think this is the third or fourth printing of that book.
Yeah, I think I've got the Avenger one. I'm pretty sure I picked up the Annihilation. I'm just going to double check before I order it. But really, there's no omnibuses I'm ordering this month, which is surprising.
They also are reprinting the Jason Aaron Star Wars, which I have and highly, highly recommend. It is set between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back without treading water. And then The Fall of the Mutants, which was a story that I just did not care for. Big X-Men crossover, which is basically a bunch of new villains, kill off all the Morlocks, because they were like, hey, we have hundreds of Morlocks living underneath New York. How about a story where we kill them off so we don't have to explain it anymore? Okay. And let's see what else there was. Oh, Joe, the Dazzler Volume 3, where they reprint the Dazzler graphic novel. I am still mad about the Dazzler graphic novel, by the way.
Because
they pushed it as, this is going to be a big deal story. This is going to be, basically this is, all right, we know people are unhappy with the Dazzler comic. This is going to fix everything. And when you read it, it is a fourth-rate romance novel. Let's see if I remember right. The art team on it was All I have to do is mention the art team, and Joe will know why I hated it. Frank Springer inked by Vince Coletta. You might as well have just put cardboard between the pages for how exciting it would be. Oof. I'm trying to look here. The Epic collection I will be picking up is Daredevil, which is Going Out West, Volume 5, which is when Gary Conway handed the book off to Steve Gerber. And Steve Gerber got progressively weirder with the comic, and it's wonderful. And for me, that is about it. I would like to say that if you are looking, if you did not buy it the first time I recommended it, they are reprinting the Thor Epic Collection to Wake the Mangog, which has the best Thor story, period. Thor 154 to 157, which DC ripped off and used the exact same plot and some of the same art ideas for the death of Superman, which is Mangog has awakened and he is making his way to Asgard and nothing can stop him. And it is 4 issues of pure action as Thor, the Warriors 3, Balder, everybody tries stopping him and they can't. Mangog is going to come to Asgard. He will unsheath the Odin sword, which will cause Ragnarok and kill everybody. And who is Mangog? He has the power of 1 billion beings. They reprinted it in the Thor Treasury Edition. And that was a comic I got when I was a kid. And I still have it. I read it to death. Read it to where the cover came off. Read it to where the pages are just you know how, Joe, when you read a comic over and over and over, no matter how good you are to it, eventually it just wears out. I read that book to death. My favorite Thor story of all time. Anything else jump out at you?
Not Marvel-wise.
And now it's time for Boom!
Boom, chug-a-lug. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Nothing new from Boom. I told you it was a slow month for me.
Yeah, boy, Boom sure has a lot of licensed books.
Well, and the weird thing is the 3 things that I'm buying aren't licensed.
Yeah.
Picking up Regarding some blah, 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 Oswald's Body, House of Slaughter, and Dark Blood. And, but I'm not picking up any. I mean, I will. Occasionally I'll pick some up if they come out as a trade sometimes. I mean, I would love to read the Power Rangers in book form. So eventually they'll get around to publishing those, and I'll pick them up.
When you get to what they're recommending this month, they've always got that thing in previews where they recommend stuff. This is gift ideas for 2021, so it's stuff that's already been printed that you can get via the star system. It does list the codes, so if you do see something there that you want to get, give your comic retailer that code, like for the Goon Bunch of Old Crap, MAR 191386. That way he can order it pretty easily. But a lot of this stuff is coming out in December, so shops usually have their shelves. Joe, you were at kind of the beginning of when hardcovers and trade paperbacks were moving in. Did you order stuff in and have it shipped for December for Christmas sales, or did you want it earlier than that?
I pretty much would pick up things all year long because I knew you could never be sure if this stuff would ship in time for Christmas or if it would ship after Christmas. So I would just make sure to keep things rolling. Matter of fact, I didn't even really talk a lot about things you could have bought. But I mean, if you go back into IDW and into Dynamite and things like that, you'll see all sorts of graphic novels and names and licensed products and games and stuff that would make wonderful gifts. Even this far out, it's probably not a bad idea to start thinking Christmas, because it sounds like things are going to get dicier as we get close to Christmas. There's all sorts of warnings coming out that, yeah, we may not have a lot of toys for Christmas. Books are going to be in short demand. So yeah, if you're a Christmas buyer, now's probably when you want to start. Although we're not.
No, we're starting now on the rest of the story.
And the rest. All right.
I'd like to point out that once again, Ablaze does not have a Conan comic.
I guess it didn't last, did it?
Nope.
Never last.
And
right.
That's another reason why I think, Conan's got a limited market at this point.
Should we go round robin?
Sure.
All right. I'm going to start off on page 243 under Antarctic Press. Kind of an interesting idea. Up in the corner there, sketchbooks for your jungle cruise. Comic book size sketchbooks in jungle green, gorilla gray, or tiger's blood. And it's a 15 pack. You get 5 of each for $45 if you're going to just wholesale it. Otherwise, if your retailer gets it, this would be something I would pick up, because I always tried to carry art supplies in the shop. I would get a hold of the blue, what they call blue line pages, which were the actual pages that comic pros would draw on. And I always had it there. I didn't do a lot of sketchbooks because we had a Dick Blick, which was kind of geared towards that. But this thing is really kind of a neat idea to have a comic book size sketchbook. They're $5 a pop, and I'm trying to figure. It doesn't really say how many pages there. 24 pages in each. So doesn't have to be Jungle Comics, but it's kind of a neat idea, especially for a guy like me who likes to. My theme is, to pick up the 1970 Supergirl sketches. And if I see these anywhere, if you're a comic retailer out there and you're buying some of these, I would definitely like to pick up some of these, because I would use those as sketches, because usually I got to wait till they do like a blank cover for Supergirl. And I picked up like 20 when they restarted Supergirl before. But just I thought a cool idea. How about you, Cory? What do you got next on your list?
If you go to page 236, not only are they relisting all of Eric Powell's Goon books, Goon, bunch of old crap trade paperbacks, love the Goon, but above that, Big Man Plans, an extended edition. First published in 2015, this brutal crime drama. Of course I'm going to buy it. It's a crime comic. Come on, man. An intriguing mystery shocked readers with its visceral violence and heart-wrenching tragedy. Big Man is a little person who's been brutalized and abused his entire existence. A person born to be life's punching bag, or so it appears. He just may be one of the deadliest killers ever trained by Redacted. He also may be slightly insane, and when someone he loves is wronged, well, even the most marginalized in society can exact revenge if they don't care how they do it. I do not remember this coming out from Dark Horse at all, so I don't have it. This expanded edition has 30 pages of added story and bonus material content, so I'm pretty happy about it.
Cool.
Very excited to pick that up. Joe?
I will jump us forward to page 276. In case you think I was smart enough to get it ready. No. Tom the Dancing Bug without the bad ones. This is the very, very, very best of the comic strip. Tom the Dancing Bug that ran, well, I think it's still running, 1990 through 2021. And if you don't believe it, you can take out your reading glasses and microscope, read the really, really small ones, or just read the DVD Girls Gone Mild, which is reprinted right there. I love Tom the Dancing Bug. So, and of course, if you really want more of it, you can underneath it buy more of the Tom the Dancing Bun into the Trumpverse. That includes an introduction by some guy, Neil Gaiman, who apparently gets around a lot. So,
Neil,
he'll never last. Don't worry.
never heard of him.
Never heard of him. I think we met him at Dreamhaven once. They were trying to push a book he was doing.
Oh yeah, what a
I
hack.
don't know.
What a hack.
Never last.
On page 245, Archie continues reprinting stuff. They are reprinting Archie's Pals and Gals. Normally this is a chronological collection, highlights some of the funniest stories in the series, which it makes me sad because the format they have been using for kind of a chronological reprinting of older series, but now it seems like they're going back to kind of these being big digests where, okay, rather than reprinting every issue of Archie's Pals and Gals, we're just going to reprint some stuff from it, which is a shame. Archie, why do you keep disappointing me? Why? I mean, I'm still waiting for the second volume of Sabrina that you promised. Oh, and Avatar Press is selling their trade paperbacks now for $2.99 each.
Yeah. I actually have them all listed now, so I can go through and see which ones I need, but I'm pretty sure I have them all.
The only ones I don't have are crossed, because when I read the description of it, it's like, yeah, I don't need to read that.
It's pretty twisted. I mean, if you like zombie things, it's probably worth picking up, but...
Well, it's zombies who bugger people.
And yeah, that's how it spreads.
Yeah, I don't need that. Don't need that in my reading.
Yeah.
What do you have next, Joe?
On page 290 in the Fantagraphic books, there's a couple things. The first one is something we have talked about ages ago. Squeak the Mouse by Massimo.
Yes, I have a copy of that.
Matoli. Now, I will mention this because way back when it first was being imported, it was seized by U.S. Customs for being too violent. And eventually, the people who were importing it got it to court, and courts ruled, no, it's protected. The ironic thing is, it's no more violent than anything you'll see in The Simpsons Itchy and Scratchy show.
And boy, this came out before Itchy and Scratchy.
Oh yeah, before. I mean, this
and
was like
I'm really sure. I am really sure that the whole Itchy and Scratchy thing came from this.
Yeah.
The idea of it is kind of your Tom and Jerry thing, except rather than an explosion and your face going black, it's an explosion and it causes blood and guts and everything to go flying. It's Itchy and Scratchy on the page, except this guy did it first.
So if you want to see what it was all about, here's your chance to pick it up. Finally back into print in a nice hardcover, fairly affordable. Up in the next page in the corner, Other Lives by Peter Bagg. Another book that's back in print. Follows 3 former college classmates who fabricated online identities lead to their real lives colliding years later. It's his first post-hate original graphic novel. Been out of print for a few years. I don't know if I have it. I don't recall seeing it as I was digging through my graphic novels, but I love Peter Bagg's stuff. I picked up that big, heavy, Complete Hate that came out in 2020. So I will definitely recommend this for those of you who are Mr. Peters fans.
You know what's on the same page there, Joe?
What's that?
The George Harriman Library, Crazy and Ignatz from 1922 to 1924. I bought the paperback when they started those from 1925, and now they have gone back they're doing them all in hardcover, and I do have the 1916 to 1918, and then the 19 It's 1919 to 1921. These are published at the same size they were published in the newspapers back then. Crazy Cat was this wonderfully surreal early comic strip, which was never really all that popular, except among artists who absolutely adored it. And one other person adored it, and that was William Randolph Hearst, who owned the paper. So he said as long as he was the publisher and Harriman wanted to draw it, he would publish it. Fantagraphics is doing just a masterful job with these. They get the best possible version. They clean it up digitally. They put a bunch of historical data in with it. So any of the historical gags that would be lost to time, they explain them. You know, this was a reference to this, kind of like I think Bloom County did in some of their books. It's called the Ignatz Mouse Debaffler. They also reprint articles at the time about George Harrison. Here's one from Cartoons Magazine in the 50s. There is a man named Harriman. All that I know of him is he signs his names in curious letters. Just this, one of the things that Fantagraphics does, and they've always kind of done this, even when they were best known for being shitheels toward everybody. When they do archive projects, they go all out. It's how they got the contract to do the Peanuts books, because the Schultz people knew that Fantagraphics would do the best job. Fantagraphics is meticulous about maintaining comics history, and these books are they're a joy. Underneath it is the Prince Valiant. They've been doing Prince Valiant since the 80s, and I could not afford them back when they were coming out early, and now I'm just scared to jump into buying them all. But I am on the Crazy Cat. Love that stuff. They also did a Little Nemo in Slumberland back when I was working at Schindler's. They did it all in 6 volumes, and it's public domain, so everybody's reprinted it. But man, those Fantagraphic books are just beautiful. Just beautiful. What do you got next, Joe?
I gotta say, there's a couple of those PS Art books that if I didn't know better, I'd really want to buy, because they have the Collected Forbidden Worlds, which has Herbie in it, and then of course Brain Boy from Dell, but that's volume 2. But I decided instead of recommending those, I was going to go to page 328 under Red 5 Comics, download number 1. When Eric is hit by a mysterious blast of light from space, he suddenly finds his mind filled with designs for strange devices. But when he blindly begins building them, he won't discover what they do until he and his friends turn them on. But dare they? They compare this to the Goonies, the Explorers. They say the adventure begins here. So I thought that was kind of an interesting teaser. Sounds like,
you know what else is on that page, Joe?
What's that?
Look up at the top of the page.
Oh, Judge Dredd by Brian
Boland. The Apex edition. This is pretty much the same thing as the IDW Artist edition. High resolution scans of Boland's most famous artwork on Judge Dredd, meticulously scanned from originals, reprinted at their original size. The collection also includes a gallery of his covers from 2000 AD in Eagle Comics, 128-page deluxe, oversized edition. Back when Brian Boland actually drew art on paper. He very early went digital. In fact, I do believe that The Killing Joke was the last art he ever drew on paper. Everything after that was done digitally. By the way, anything that PS Art Books publishes, if you want to read it, you not collect it, but just read it, head on over to Comic Book Plus. Joe, I've told you about Comic Book Plus, right?
Oh, yeah.
Comic Book Plus, you set up an account there, and they have public domain comics, and that is where PS Art Books gets their scans. They literally download the scans and publish them as books. So anything that PS Artworks does, you can get there. Guandanaland Comics has the same thing. You're getting a lot of publishers who now have jumped on the reprinting public domain comics bandwagon. It's cool if you want to own them in book form. I prefer, hey, you know what? It's free. You can download it. And at Comic Book Plus, when they get a better scan of a book, they put it up. I'm currently reading the Frankenstein comic.
Oh, yeah.
From the 40s, which the first 20-some issues are humor comics. Then it was canceled. And then after EC showed that horror comics sold, it came back. Same artist doing it as a horror comic. So there's that. What do you have next?
I'm not buying it, but I do want to point out, if you are a fan of Cowboy Bebop, run to page 348. You'll get a paper cut, because Titan is starting a series in anticipation that there's going to be a live action TV series on Netflix next month. And that's what this is going to be based on. It gives you kind of a quick synopsis of the characters on the other page, different variant covers. You can pick what you want. So if you're so inclined, this is your chance to jump on board. This is, again, not on sale to December 8th, but you can pick it up now. What do you got next, Cory?
On page 373 is a new book by Will Murray. Will Murray is the guy who is writing pulp novels. They're licensed pulp novels of Doc Savage, The Shadow, The Spider, G8 and the Battle Aces, all the stuff that Condé Nast now owns. He has a new book called Master of Mystery, The Rise of the Shadow, which goes into how this nebulous radio personality became a pulp hero and how it got defined by the pulps and then radio and back and forth. Because most people don't know this. The Shadow just was a radio host of kind of mystery horror shows in the early radio era. There was not a Shadow character until they licensed it for a pulp magazine, and Walter Gibson, who wrote most of the 326 Shadow novels, sort of created the character just based on the voice. So everything you know about the Shadow is going to be discussed in here, including the origins, where he was basically just the guy who introduced the story and then closed the story. And Will Murray is one of the premier pop culture historians. He was the guy who first dug up Jack Kirby's pitch for Spider-Man and where it all came from. Kirby had never talked about it. Ditko had never talked about it. It was Will Murray who dug that up, and he's really good at digging up parts of comics history as well as pulp history. I buy every book he writes. He's even writing Tarzan books and doing stories where Tarzan crosses over with other pulp characters. So highly recommend it. And that was the last thing I have that is new.
The only other thing I'm going to mention, we've talked about Retro Fan magazine. I actually saw one. They were up at Barnes and Noble, and I may have to rethink about buying this magazine because much like Back Issue and Alter Ego, the few that I saw were really, really well written, cool pictures, tons of outstanding articles. It happened to be a Logan's Run issue, not only covering a great interview with Michael York, but covering the TV show as well. So, I mean, we're up to issue 19. I'm assuming I could either digitally get back issues or they probably have some physical ones lying around. So I may have to, I know originally when it came out, Cory, both of us were like, but I may have to revisit that. And maybe we should, like I said, maybe I'll pick up an issue and we'll give it a quick review then. But that's it for me as well.
You
Like
know
I
who
said,
else
I
you
didn't
should
see a
reissue?
ton of stuff. Oh, what? Who? What? Who?
You know who else you should revisit, Joe?
Oh, my dad. I'll give him a call once we're done potting.
No, our sponsor, NordVPN. And if you really like the stuff I do here, imagine how much you'll like all the other podcasts I do. And now we get to Joe's favorite part of the show. No, not where he dresses in a red shirt and has to go up into space with William Shatner.
Oh, no, I ain't doing that again.
No, it's Joe, what's going on the eBays?
Lots of stuff. Well, maybe.
Thanks.
Sort
Good
of.
night.
I know. Yep. No, I had to, I had a bank account with TCF and they have since switched over to, what's the name of these guys? The Huntington Bank. So I got new account numbers, I got new passcodes, I got new credit cards. I had to do all that fun stuff so I could continue to get paid via eBay's managed payout system. A couple of things that sold recently. I just sold us FemForce number 33 from way back 1991. In case you're wondering, FemForce is from AC Comics, still being published. Matter of fact, in the previews we just talked about, issue number 195 is available if you're so inclined. I sold my Drax miniseries. It was a series originally. It was the one that CM Punk wrote back in 2016, and I converted it to a graphic novel. Speaking of Crossed, I sold one of my Crossed books, Crossed Wish You Were Here, Volume 1. It's actually a 4-issue series where survivors end up getting on an island, and of course, the Crossed zombies follow. Under the category of, maybe I shouldn't have sold it, but I did anyways, Rocket Raccoon, Guardian of the Keystone Quadrant, hardcover. This hardcover contained the early appearances of Rocket Raccoon back when he was just a raccoon instead of the wisecracking Rocket that we know now. And this reprinted his first appearance for Marvel Preview 7, his appearance, or I should say reappearance, in the Incredible Hulk series 271, and the original miniseries Rocket Raccoon 1 through 4. I never read the Marvel Preview issue because I never had the magazine, but I do recall when he showed up in Hulk, and I was a Marvel zombie back then, so I did buy the Rocket Raccoon miniseries. Why I didn't keep
why
it?
I bought it?
Why is that?
Who drew it, Joe?
I don't know because mine was still shrink wrapped. I never opened it.
Mike Mignola drew the Rocket Raccoon miniseries.
Ooh. I had no idea who that was at the time. I just remember he was in Hulk, and I thought, oh, cool, let's read it. Having read these since in a reprint book, they're not that good. So I figured, well, I keep the hardcover because I still have the trade. I think I gave the trade to Holly, and then she gave it back to me when she said it wasn't that good. Some other fun things sold. Binky, I don't know, some of these things I think we talked about. Binky 76 from 1971. Yeah, I talked about that last time. That's kind of an Archie thing that DC Comics was doing. But I've been loading up a lot of stuff. I I'll talk about it a little bit in geeking, but I actually passed up buying some things that I knew I could probably sell on the eBays. And I'll tell you more about that now. But in the meantime, if you want to see what's on there, I just posted a bunch of variant covers, a couple signed books. Hopefully they're still there when you hear this, but you know what to do. If you see something you like, send me a quick note. If it's got a best offer, send me an offer. Mention you listen to this here podcast. If not, send me a note via eBay's messaging system. Say, hey, could you give me a better deal on this? And I'd probably be like, oh, you got some nerve, fella. But you know I'd probably do it anyways. Krayz, come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I hang the 6-foot-tall Vampirella poster on my front door and tell everybody to leave me alone for an hour or so. No, it's Freaking and Geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Superman? Bisexual? Yeah, whatever. A, not the Superman we know. B, it's his son. C, what are you going to do with your kids? Hey, that's all I'm going to say about that. Cory, what you freaking on?
I will say I am reading the comic.
Well, it's not out yet where he actually comes out. But
no, but I'm reading the miniseries.
Okay.
And you know, if you've read the this character, it's abundantly clear where they have been going for the past couple of years. And it's not set in current continuity as far as I can tell, because it's Superman has to take off. His son, who has hung out with the Legion of Superheroes, knows he will die on this upcoming mission. So that's been the whole story. It really feels
I thought it was current continuity. Because Superman came over from our universe when the New 52 Superman died, and then he brought his family along over, and him and Damian hung around for a little bit. Or doesn't it matter?
I honestly don't know anymore.
Because that's where they came from.
Right. But I honestly don't know. It really feels like it was something left over from 5G that they're burning off. What gets me is all of the politicians who have jumped on this. They don't know anything about what's going on. I doubt they've read a comic in decades, but they're using it to whip up their base.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
One of the things I have read is that a lot of the times they will do this sort of thing to get attacked on Twitter by the creative people and liberals and stuff, so they could go back to their base and go, see, they're persecuting me. They're coming after me. Ted Cruz is the one who discovered this, where if he'll post something stupid on Twitter, and no matter what you think about Ted Cruz, he's not stupid. He graduated Harvard.
He just has that dumb look on his face.
No, he will post dumb stuff on Twitter, and then the attacks back he puts into fundraising letters. Look how the liberals are attacking us. Look at how they want to destroy us and our family values, and raises tons and tons of money. Because when he's learned, if you portray yourself as a victim, his base will open their wallets. Trump picked up on that because Trump always is the victim. Oh, everybody's always out to get poor Donald Trump. He talks about, how the elite are after him. This is the guy who shits on a golden toilet. That's not an exaggeration. He has a literal golden toilet. Oh, the elites are after me, just like they're after you. So the best thing to do, just ignore them. When Dean Cain goes on Fox and Friends to whine about this, ignore it. When Marjorie Taylor Greene puts out a thing about how Superman, she's going to call him Superman now because he obviously talks with a lisp. Ignore it. Just ignore it. They want you to attack. They want you to point out how stupid they are. It's how they raise money. And I will say, the stuff I'm reading from people who've been working in comics in the upper echelon for a long time really makes me feel good, because a lot of them are saying, this is great. If it helps one kid have a character in a comic that they can identify with, that they can look up to, that they can say, oh, that's a lot like me, it's a great thing. And they're happy that DC has done this. Over at Marvel, they've had so many gay characters that no one pays any attention for.
I did want to even jump on. I talked to our good buddy Eric Turbo today, and even he was like, talking with people, and he was like, you realize it's not the Superman, it's his son. Oh, I didn't know that. I know you didn't, because you're stupid. Because he even was sighing about that. Because people come to him knowing he knows comics, and it's like, nope, you're just buying the hype.
And the other thing that I keep reading about it, this is my other freaking, is this is just a stunt. Sit down. I'm going to fill you in on something. It's all stunts. Everything's a stunt. Everything. The first line of a novel is a stunt. They're trying to get you to, oh my gosh, I have to read this book. The stuff on the back of the novel, oh my gosh, I need to read this book. The ads, all of it. The reason you do stuff, the reason you create things is you want people to read it. You want people to pay attention to it. You want people to tune in and tell your story. Guess what? It's all made up. They just did that. Yes, we do. When we sit down to write a story, we do that. Look, last week, Kim Kardashian was the host of Saturday Night Live. I could give less of a damn about Kim Kardashian. Show's not for me because it got Saturday Night Live's highest ratings in a year.
And oddly enough, she was actually funny.
But that's the thing. Why do they have her on? Because ratings go up when she's on. And ratings are how you sell ads. And ads are how you make. Saturday Night Live is not a nonprofit. NBC is not a nonprofit. When you write a book, you're going to write to the best of your ability, and you want there to be quality, but you also want to grab the reader. Every professional writer will tell you the first thing you do, you grab the reader by the throat and make it so they cannot stop reading. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Oh, let's see. Switch gears here. I read a long and great article from the New Yorker. I believe it's not behind a paywall, newyorker.com. Paul McCartney doesn't really want to stop the show. A great article talking about he's basically trying to get the record straight. And part of it, this article written by David Remnick, is because they have a, they are remaking a version of Let It Be, because he felt when that movie came out, and this is Paul, that it seemed to excessively stress the negativity of that particular era. And he said that's just not true. There were plenty of laughs. There was plenty of good times being done. Yeah, there was tension. So he's redoing it, and it's going to be the Beatles Get Back. It's going to be a 3-part documentary made by director Peter Jackson, another hack like Neil Gaiman you never heard of, going to be on Disney Plus during Thanksgiving weekend. I hope it's going to be up for a while because, we're going to be busy. That's our annual Black Friday runabout. The article is great because it talks about Paul. He's straightforward. It's real interesting, when he has a party he's got Jerry Seinfeld, Jimmy Buffett, Angelica Houston, Stevie Van Zandt, Billy Joel. Talks about how Bob Dylan, all these people react to Paul, because no matter how much you know Paul, there's always a little bit of he's a Beatle, And there was only 4 people, 2 are left that know what that means and just how crazy Beatlemania was. So it's a wonderful article. I'm looking forward to seeing the show. So if you can check it out, either pick up a copy in New Yorker or, like I said, go check it out online.
Can I point something out about that too?
Absolutely.
A lot of articles are being written where it says, Paul McCartney says John Lennon broke up the Beatles. Paul McCartney has told the same story about the end of the Beatles since 1971. And that is, they were drifting apart. They were kind of, if you listen to the White Album, it's very much 4 guys doing solo projects all crammed onto one album. And Paul was very much, you know what? We need to get back to basics. We need to strip everything down, maybe even change our name and go touring in clubs again to get that magic back. And everybody else was like, that would be like going back to high school. No, we're not going to do that. And yes, John is the one who filed the first legal papers. But it was very much that everybody was going in different directions. Paul he was the guy who, come on, guys, let's go back to be the Quarrymen. And they were like, same feeling I would have if people I went to high school with, come on, Cory, let's go back to junior high. I'd rather be shot in the face. And the Beatles ended because they had to end. These were 4 guys who had gotten together in high school, and they grew up. Not every band stays together. Even the Rolling Stones, which are, quote, still together, they go out on tour every so often, but they haven't put out a good album in at least 30 years. Every album is just, okay, we got a new tour, so let's throw some shit on an album to promote it. We'll go out, we'll play all the old stuff. And the rest of the time, they have nothing to do with each other. To the point where every time you hear an interview with Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, they hate each other. They hate each other so much.
Yeah, it's just a business to these guys. They get together, make some money, move on. Let's see. What else we got going?
I'm so tired of Paul McCartney said that Lennon broke up the Beatles. Yeah, even John Lennon said that he broke up the Beatles. George Harrison said that John Lennon broke up the Beatles. The court documents show that John Lennon broke up the Beatles. This is not news.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Let's see. On other things, I watched a couple movies. The Michael Keaton Batman, which I haven't watched in so long. You haven't seen a movie in a while when you're going through it and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't remember this part. And under the yes, I've never seen it before department, I finally watched American Graffiti. I've never, ever watched it before. And it was a blast because not only are you seeing a bunch of really, really young stars before they were stars, but it's also, I believe, George Lucas's first, I think it predated his other one, THX 1138 or whatever.
THX 1138 was his college film. That he got extra money to kind of make it into a theatrical release. The first movie he made for theaters was American Graffiti. And I haven't seen it in a bajillion years, but I remember when I did see it, it's like, oh my God, did Happy Days steal everything from this movie?
Oh, pretty much. Because once I see a movie like this, I usually go on to Wikipedia and I read about it. And he says every character in that movie was him, George Lucas, that is, somewhere in his life. So you can look at all the characters, like the early nerdy one was him in high school, and then he was the questioning college-bound person, and the real cool rebel, and it was a blast. Good music. If you wonder why Elvis wasn't on it, even though he was big during that time, money rights. They wanted too much money for it. So it was a lot of fun.
And it was set in 62. And by 62, Elvis had pretty much moved on to movies and Vegas. He wasn't considered.
But people were still listening to the Elvis movie. I mean, it's funny
they
when
were, but
when
he
you
wasn't cool
when
anymore.
you listen to all the. Even Chris was like, "Oh, this isn't right." Beach Boys didn't have that song then. Well, yes, they did, and people were still listening to Elvis. Just kind of like the way I listen to the Beatles. Yeah, they haven't made anything since the early 70s, but I just found it interesting that, they didn't put anything in it. Both these movies were on HBO Max under their, I think, Turner Classic Movies, or whatever the archive movies were. So that was fun. We don't talk a lot about listening to stuff, but I have an old GAR with a CD. And much as I like streaming, it sucks about as much as terrestrial radio because I never get to listen to what I want when I want. So the nice thing about CDs is I can listen to what I want when I want. For example, I pulled out, most of my CDs, of course, are in storage now because I'm clearing out the house slowly. But I did grab a few and I blew through them. Basically, I can get through what we would consider one half of a CD on the way to work and the other half on the way home. So I pulled out the Dr. Demento 25th Anniversary Collection, which was, when the hell was that? That had to have been, you know what? I put this under freaking Cory. It really sucks when I can't read the copyright on a CD because it's so friggin' small. 1995, that's when this thing came out. So you're not missing it. It isn't Dr. Demento's 25th. Matter of fact, we might be on his 50 already. Such fun things as Weird Al, Smells Like Nirvana, Utah Phillips, Moose Turd Pie, Barnes and Barnes, Gotta Get a Fake ID, Achy Breaky Song, Rubber Biscuit, The Curly Shuffle, Particle Man. It's a lot of fun. And what brings up some of the more fun memories is the fact that I have my own college radio show where I kind of ape Dr. Demento, not by playing songs and describing them, but like I would do, okay, here's a 15, 20-minute set on dead animals. So I'd play like my dead dog Rover, dead skunk in the middle of the road, that type of thing. Long time ago, well, I talked about liking Jethro Tull. I picked up a 5-issue set called Jethro Tull, the Original Album Series, which has Songs from the Wood, Heavy Horses, Stormwatch, which was the first regular album I bought. I had bought Bursting Out as my first one, and then A and Broadsword. I did have my Aqualung separate, so I've burned through all those. And another one I listened to, I don't know, Cory, have you ever heard of George Winston?
Yes.
George Winston is a piano player, artist extreme. American pianist, born in Michigan, known for solo piano recordings. His albums in the 80s were kind of a must-have. Autumn, December, winter into spring, summer. The albums themselves were hard to find. You had to special order them. They were like $20 back when an album was maybe 10. I actually had a CD of his album, Autumn. No idea when I bought it. Cracked it open and listened to it. George Winston is back because he's overcome cancer twice. He had something called myelodysplastic syndrome. Had major surgery with a marrow transplant in 2013. And as of 2019, his newest album was Restless Wind. And it's just, I had a friend, Dave Marsh, still friends with him in college. He loved George Winston. And he would he too was a fairly, well, he won't say he was accomplished, but he was a good pianist, and he just loved to play that type of music, just solo and drawn out. And we played it on a record. We did a morning show, him and I, for about a year at the college radio station I talked about, and we would always try to break out a George Winston, because the nice thing about the morning show is we could play what we wanted to. Where I listened to some of these, I actually did a wandering day. Wandered up to Granite City, dropped off a bunch of stuff. We're trying to work out a trade. If it happens, I'll let you know, because all of it will go on eBay. Just some of the things that I brought to the charity booth of my own, that were my own, that didn't sell, and I brought it to him. But as I left, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go across country a little bit, work my way over to North Branch. Mainly they had a couple thrift stores that I always want to hit, but my wife, Chris, can't go into thrift stores or antique stores because she's ultra allergic to that old smell you get, the mold smell. And she said every time she walks in one of these stores, she smells it instantly. So as I was wandering through the countryside, just letting Google take me where it is, the shortcut, I listened to George Winston. It was kind of just my recharge moment, you know. When I got to the charity store, and I'm sorry, I'll have to dig up the what the heck. Let me just Google it here. Excuse me while I whip this out.
Woo!
Store in North Branch used to have a really, really good thrift store, but they don't anymore, because it's kind of like a lot of outlet stores that kind of fell into repair. It used to be one of the places we would go to because KB Toy had their outlet store there. So when you were out looking for toys to bring back and sell at comic shops, that was one of the three places you'd hit. There was a bookstore there. Now there's hardly anything there. It's called Family Pathways Thrift Store. There's also one in Forest Lake. There's one in Pine City. Remember I was talking about things I saw on eBay that I probably could have bought, but I didn't? Cory, we've talked about Dell Comics ad nauseum. Have we talked about Dell Books?
I have.
They had 150 Dell books.
Holy cats!
All for $1.50.
Oh,
I know, and believe me, I wanted them. I picked up 4. One you might have heard of, Francis. He's a story of a GI mule who learned how to talk with common sense and hilarious.
Francis the Talking Mule.
I picked up one called The Rawhide Years from Norman A. Fox. He took to the trail as a scared kid, but he rode out to manhood. Stranger with a Gun. This is Dell book number 1005. Yes, they're all numbered just like the comics were. One false step meant death on a treacherous cattle trail through Indian territory. The final one had a picture of a guard going past Barb Cage with a woman with no top on, called The Stockade by Kenneth Lamont, a tough, revealing novel of the men and women in the wake of war. I say this because if you are so interested, run up to Family Pathway stores and pick up as many as you can. I want to pick these things up. They go anywhere from, depending on the condition, $6 to $20 to $30 on the eBays. My guess is someone just dumped their collection, because some of them are actually written up pretty heavily. Matter of fact, one of them is Antiques on Main in Anoka, Minnesota. So if you're a fan of Dell Books, take a run up there or give them a call. Family Pathway Store. It's in North Branch, 651-674-4211. I mentioned my wife's out of town, but I have a full box stay ready. Other than taking the previews out, I haven't even looked at it. And I did buy one thing at Granite City because they got a sale going. I don't know how long it goes, but for 25% off, I picked up Gilbert Shelton's The Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers Omnibus. Mainly because I thought they were going to reprint an omnibus, and it was canceled. And in the meantime, I had sold mine off expecting the new hardcover version. So I figured, well, I know I don't have this because, like I said, I went through all my graphic novels and I pretty much know what I have and what I don't have. So that's pretty much it for me. Cory, what you geeking on?
Amazing Spider-Man number 75 was awesome. Set up the this long-running story about the Beyond Corporation, brought back Ben Reilly, and explained why he is taking Peter Parker's place and why Peter Parker ends up in the hospital. They have said that this is like a 16 or 18 part story, and I am okay with that. I think they've got a new creative team on Spider-Man. I like Nick Spencer's stuff, but I thought toward the end it got really rushed and convoluted and confusing. Now we know why, but this is just pure Spider-Man, lots of drama. It's what I like. I also read the first issue of The Death of Doctor Strange, and oddly enough, I liked it as well. There is a twist at the end that I am not going to spoil, but when you get to the end, you're going to go, oh, wow. And I love when a comic can pull that off. I'm kind of sad that Doctor Strange just doesn't sell well enough to have a continuing series, much like Conan, much like the Guardians of the Galaxy. But I like the fact that they are doing a big story with him. And let's see. I also, this comic has been out for a long time. But I am finally reading Morning Glories from Image, which was by Nick Spencer. And it really is weird, and a good weird. There is a core mystery to it. A bunch of teenagers are brought to a private academy. When they get there, they realize they all have the same birthday, and their families don't know they exist anymore. And the people who run the school seem to be really, really terrible supervillainy types. And I've read the first trade, and it's one of those books where it reminds me a lot of Lost in that, okay, I have to know where they're going with this, but I have to force myself not to just run through to get all the answers. No, I need to take my time so that I can enjoy the ride. Image, they just finished up the next story in what is becoming my favorite regular comic, and that is That Texas Blood. The end of the second story. God, this is a good comic. And when you read the first trade paperback, you're going to go, well, where can they go from here? And then the second trade paperback, you'll go, oh, I see. This is a much bigger story than the first trade paperback feels like. And it's one of those things where it's very clear that a lot of people at Image are being smart about their structure. They know, hey, if this doesn't sell well, I'm going to have to end it after the first story arc. So the first story arc kind of is concluded. But it leaves things there so that if it does continue, it can go on, but not in a way that if it doesn't, the reader's going to feel cheated. And that's a really hard thing to construct. And I have a lot of, I admire people who do that. I think it's a really hard thing to do. And the fact that more and more writers are thinking in that mode, understanding how the market works. It's kind of like Department of Truth. Department of Truth, if it wouldn't have sold well and the first trade paperback ended it, it would have been okay. I get it. That works. But as it goes on, it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And then the last thing I am geeking on, I was a huge fan of CSI. The original CSI was one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And the thing I liked best about it was that it was we didn't go a lot into everybody's personal life. It was a lot of dramas about people solving mysteries and stuff. They get into the characters' personal lives and their inner and the drama and everything, and it pulls further and further and further away from the mystery. It's why I like Columbo. We know next to nothing about his life outside of he's a cop, he has a wife and a dog. That's all we know. That's all we need to know. When I read a mystery novel, a lot of the mystery novels I like, they don't get into a lot of interpersonal drama and backstory and everything. No, it's all about the plot, and CSI is all about the plot. Now, when they were going to bring it back, I was worried that they're going to turn it into a long story arc thing. It's going to be a lot of all these new characters having all this personal stuff. Nope. Still use the formula of here's a crime. Here's the science they're going to use to solve it. And everybody involved is kind of like a Judge Dredd in that they are unstoppable science-using cops who will not stop until they get the bad guy. It's a good formula. The viewership wasn't the greatest in the world, and it was announced as the first season's only 10 episodes. Ugh. But I'm happy that CSI is back, and I hope it remains back. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for almost 2 hours. Joe, it's a previous episode less than 2 hours long.
I know. That's got to tell you, there's something wrong here.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Cory, I know it's a week late, but I hope you had a happy Columbus Day. Say what you want about the guy, but in reality, we wouldn't have the first 2 Harry Potter movies without him.
Or the Home Alone movie.
I
win! Hit my music!
Yeah, you.